Hello everyone and welcome back to Scared Schmidtless, the true crime and horror podcast hosted by yours truly, Alexander Schmidt. Hence the name. A very clever name, by the way. I hope you've all been doing well. Today we are diving into some unresolved mysteries. So some good old true crime. We're getting that true crime juice. We're drinking it. I've got two stories here that are unresolved mysteries that feel like they sort of match each other a little bit, and may be connected is what the original poster is trying to say, I think. So let's get straight into it. If you have any experiences or interesting stories you want to share with the show, you can do so at scaredschmidtlesspod@gmail.com, but I'll give you some more information on that a little bit later. Unresolved mysteries. This comes from the user TheBonesOfAutumn, and it's titled, "In May of 1980, 36-year-old Christina Frazier fought for her life when she was violently attacked in her Anderson, Indiana apartment. After being stabbed, choked, and sexually assaulted, her killer shattered her skull. 40 years later, her case remains unsolved." The morning of May 23rd, 1980 started out like any other for 36-year-old Christina Frazier. Shortly before 7 a.m., she said goodbye to her husband, Charles, who was heading to his job at the State Highway Department. Charles and Christina had only been married for about 3 weeks, and the Anderson, Indiana couple were just getting settled into their new life together. At around 4:30 p.m, Charles returned home after work to discover the back door of the couple's apartment had been kicked open. As he entered the small upstairs apartment, Charles noticed large amounts of blood splattered on the walls and floors leading into the bedroom. There he found Christina lying on the floor in a pool of blood. I could not think of anything worse to walk into, especially it being in your own home with your partner, and ultimately your partner being the victim that was killed. I don't know how you could get that out of your brain. I don't think you could, honestly. It was determined that Christina's murder had been a case of overkill. Christina was stabbed multiple times. An autopsy revealed she had been stabbed more than 6 times in the neck and had numerous slice wounds across her back, hands, and arms. She was found dressed in her bathrobe. Christina's killer had tried to gag and strangle her multiple times using the robe's belt. However, when this failed and Christina fought back, her killer attempted to use a t-shirt, then an electrical cord, both of which were found tied around Christina's neck as well. As Christina continued to fight for her life, it is believed she attempted to take cover in her bathroom. There, her killer attacked her once again, beating Christina in the head and face. The fatal blow came when Christina's killer slammed her head against one of the bathroom fixtures, either the toilet or the bathtub, shattering her skull. It was also determined that Christina had been sexually assaulted. Due to the lack of contents in her stomach and the fact that she was still dressed in her bathrobe, it is estimated that Christina was killed shortly after Charles had left work around 7 a.m. An investigation of the apartment located at 923 Unit 1 to 2 Nickel Avenue, I think I got that right, if not, I'm sorry, revealed that aside from kicking in the front door, Christina's killer had also cut her phone's cord. So that means she wouldn't be able to get out a distress call or call, obviously, the authorities. The apartment was in disarray from the struggle that had occurred, however nothing was missing, including cash in Christina's purse. Charles was immediately ruled out as suspect after police confirmed that he had been at work from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. that day, and had not left. When questioned, the downstairs neighbours told investigators that they had heard loud noises coming from the apartment above, however they did not investigate the noises further. After canvassing the neighbourhood and coming up empty-handed, police turned to Christina's fellow employees at the local tavern where she worked nights as a waitress. Unfortunately, they turned up no new leads there either. I wanted to include that although it is never mentioned in the newspaper articles, this murder has quite a few similarities to the case I posted yesterday about Janet Shura, the teacher who was savagely murdered in nearby Kokomo, Indiana. Both murders happened on Memorial Day weekend within 24 hours of one another. Both murders were considered overkill by investigators. Both victims were stabbed. Robbery doesn't appear to have been a motive in either case. Kokomo is pretty close to Anderson, a little over an hour away. I'm not saying the two are related, I'm just wanting to point out the similarities between them. So what this person is not trying to say but implying is that the death and circumstances around Christina Frazier's death and Janet Shura's, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, Shirar's, is that they are very, very similar and seem connected in a way. The original poster, The Bones of Autumn, has also included the coroner's certificate of death in relation to Christina, and has also included her gravestone there. On the death certificate, it actually says here her occupation was housewife. What's the cause of death? I can't actually read that. It's got that like squiggly writing that 5th grade teachers try to teach you in primary school. I can't actually read that. The newspaper clippings, some of the newspaper clippings, I'll read the headlines here. Stabbed, choked. This was in 1980, May 25th. Bride slain in Anderson apartment. Anderson woman stabbed, strangled. Hunt for clues widens in slaying at Anderson. Search continues. Leads in slaying sought. Anderson woman found dead Friday. Can I just quickly say how morbid newspapers and stuff are with their headings when it comes to someone dying? Anderson woman found dead Friday. Like, geez, could you be any more just fucking straight to the point? The poor family, or the poor husband, sorry, if you picked up that paper and read that, it's very, like, what's the word? It's very, like, just straight to the point and in your face sort of thing. Like, if you picked up the paper and it read, Anderson woman found dead Friday, that's very harsh in terms of headings. The final example I have of pretty damn straight to the point headings is police probe brutal slaying at Anderson. And the article here, at one point of it reads, blood was found throughout the apartment indicating she had struggled with her assailant or assailants. And then, yeah, the quote here from the coroner is, it really looked like overkill. Police said entry to the apartment was gained by kicking in the front door. Time of death was estimated at some time between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. Police believe the murderer had difficulty attempting to strangle the woman and that her head was bashed against the side of the bathtub or toilet. And they also mentioned that there was an attempt to gag her, and then they used the t-shirt. So far, no solid leads have been uncovered in the investigation. Now we move on to the other crime that took place, that this original poster is seemingly or implying that they may be related. I'm not saying they are either, because I don't want to be that guy that gets myself into trouble, you know what I'm saying? So, on Memorial Day weekend, 1980, this is, by the way, the same person who just posted the other one. On Memorial Day weekend, 1980, 29-year-old Janet Shura, I'm just going to call her Janet. I feel like I'm going to stuff up that last name. Was savagely murdered in her Kokomo, Indiana apartment. So same location. The outgoing and dedicated special needs teacher was stabbed and slashed more than a dozen times, leading police to call her murder the definition of an overkill. 29-year-old Janet Shura was called a firecracker by people who knew her. The outgoing and beautiful young woman from Kokomo, Indiana, was considered to be the life of any party and was known for telling people how it is. Janet was also an extremely dedicated teacher who taught special needs students at Bon Air Middle School. Her friends said despite her being a social butterfly, she would often cancel her plans to spend her free time coming up with fun new lesson plans for students that she lovingly called her kids. On Friday, May 23, 1980, the school day ended just like any other. Janet said goodbye to her students and chatted with other staff members about their plans for Memorial Day weekend. Janet told them that she'd planned to spend the weekend with her family. They were having their annual Memorial Day cookout, as well as her nephew's birthday party. Janet hopped in her orange Datsun B210 and drove home to her one-bedroom ground-floor apartment in Center Meadow Apartments, where she had lived for about 2 years. The complex was not known for particularly being nice. The parking lot and exterior of the apartments were poorly lit, and several tenants had reported break-ins over the years. The apartments were also poorly insulated, resulting in neighbours constantly hearing one another through the thin walls. When Saturday came and Janet didn't call or show up to her family's cookout, they grew concerned. However, when Sunday came and Janet didn't show up for her nephew's birthday party, an event she would ordinarily never miss, her mum knew something was seriously wrong. She began calling Janet's friends, neighbours and staff from the school, but no one had seen her. On Sunday evening, Janet's mum, 52-year-old Alma Rose Fitch, and her stepfather, 55-year-old Alvin Fitch, drove to Janet's apartment complex to check on her. When they arrived, they found Janet's Datsun, that's her car, in the parking lot, her driver's side door slightly open. Rose approached the window of Janet's apartment and shined a flashlight inside. She saw Janet's purse sitting in the middle of the living room floor, but saw no sign of her daughter. Rose and Alvin tried the front door, but it was locked. Rose called the apartment's office building and asked for a key to her daughter's apartment. That's when they informed her she could come pick up the key from their office that was located elsewhere in town. Not wanting to leave, Rose called a friend of Janet's, who also asked not to be named in the story, and asked if it would be okay if he picked up the key and brought it to her. The friend obliged and showed up to the complex with the key. The three entered the apartment, the unnamed male friend of Janet's first, followed by her stepfather and mother. Janet's friends reached over and hit the light switch in the apartment's living room. However, nothing happened. He picked up a yellow towel on the floor and upon realizing it was soaked in blood, tossed it onto the couch. The friend noticed that a small whiskey keg used as a table to hold Janet's phone had been moved from its normal spot. The phone cord was stretched taut, and the table had been moved to the opposite side of the room, as though someone didn't want the phone to be easily accessible from the bedroom or bathroom. Using a flashlight to light his path, Janet's friend stepped around the couch to find a bloody handprint about shoulder level on the wall outside of Janet's bedroom. As he turned, his light landed on Janet's nude, blood-soaked body, lying on the bathroom floor. The friend and Alvin rushed Rose from the apartment to a neighbour's apartment, not wanting her to see her daughter's body. There, they called police. Investigators arrived to find Janet on the bathroom floor. It was noted that it appeared as though Janet's killer had positioned her body. Janet was found lying face down rather than having her face turned to one side, her arms extended straight down her sides. Her palms were face up and were clean. Janet's body was riddled with stab wounds, more than a dozen in total. She had been stabbed multiple times in the neck, back, torso, and head, and had several slashes across her thighs, buttocks, and back. A 4-inch paring knife from Janet's kitchen that was found next to her body was determined to be the murder weapon. However, it had been wiped clean. An autopsy determined that Janet had died from blood loss. After the subclavicle vein, a major blood vessel in the back, was severed. It was determined that the fatal wound had been inflicted first and had occurred in Janet's bedroom. From there, it is believed she had made her way to the bathroom, where she died less than 3 minutes later. The other numerous stab and slice wounds had been inflicted after her death, hence why they called it overkill. Janet's clothes were found neatly folded in her closet, and she was not sexually assaulted. It is believed she died roughly 20 to 28 hours before she was found. However, that number could be slightly off due to the cold temperatures of the bathroom floor. It was determined that due to the angle of the wounds, Janet's killer had been much shorter than Janet, who stood at 5 foot 9 inches, and had most likely been sprayed with blood from the severed vein, just as Janet's bedroom mirror and chest had been. Aside from the bloody print found by Janet's friend, investigators also discovered a smeared partial print just outside of Janet's kitchen. The first handprint was determined to be Janet's. However, the second was too smeared for comparison. All of the blood found at the scene was determined to belong to Janet. Janet's apartment showed no signs of forced entry and had not been ransacked, and nothing was missing. Janet's neighbours were all interviewed. None had seen Janet since Friday. However, one neighbour claimed that around 3:30 a.m. on Saturday, she heard a woman scream. She said a short time later she heard a car start up in the parking lot and leave. Janet was not dating anyone at the time of her death. However, men she had dated in the past were all questioned. None of them appeared to have any grudges against her, and all fully cooperated with the investigation. One suspect did come to light during the investigation, but was never publicly named. A female friend of Janet's became a person of interest during the investigation. However, no evidence linking her to Janet's murder was ever found, and police call it mere speculation that she was involved in Janet's death. Sadly, most of Janet's family has passed away without ever getting the answers they so desperately sought. Janet's stepfather, Alvin, passed away in 1994. Her mother, Rose, died in 2015. Janet's biological father, Richard Dick Shirar, whom she was also very close to, died in 2017. And then there's more clippings of newspaper articles and headings and whatnot. I possibly think those two could be linked, to be honest. They seem very similar and in the same location and everything like that. And was it around the same time? Yeah, it was the same year. Same year and weekend, it looks like. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. What are your thoughts? Do you believe that these two stories are linked and potentially have the same killer? If you want to reach out and let me know, you can do so at scaredschmidtlesspod@gmail.com. I'm very upset that the majority of her family had died without answers. That is quite upsetting. And I'm going to leave it there. If you want to send a story into the show or have an experience yourself that you want to share, whether it's true crime, paranormal related, anything like that, the email is scaredschmidtlesspod@gmail.com, or just have a browse in the show notes. I also have a Twitter and Instagram now if you want to follow those, as well as YouTube. But leave the show a positive review if you enjoyed it, and as I said, reach out to the show if you want to. I'm not scary, I promise. Thank you all for listening in, and I'll most likely be back next week.